Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today. So I'm going to be talking about what lighting can do and where it's going to be going in the near future. You'll see in 9.8 billion by 2050, two-thirds will be living in urban areas. We talk about smart cities. We like to talk about how to make a city smart, but over a longer period of time. As population increases, how will the urban infrastructure evolve? What are the key contributors to that? These are kind of the intro slides to where we get in. How has the smart city landscape changed? Where are we getting to? We believe lighting is going to become very important. Like it just said, it's very foundational. You can't really do much without light. You'll see a lot of things. We find that we've changed the kind of narrative in regards to how we deal with smart cities. A lot of people like to define the problem. We actually like to define the outcome. Similar to artificial intelligence, machine learning, you don't start big. We always believe in you start small when you're working with a city, and you define that outcome for a mayor, for a city planner, for a Department of Transportation head, and you work each in an iterative direction to a larger outcome. But if you can't define an outcome, don't start the problem. Components of our smart city. One thing you'll see transportation, water, electricity, light bulbs. The other thing that's missing, and we believe lighting will become an important part, and I'll explain it later, is safety. Safety is becoming an issue when you see fire, but you also see active shooter, and I'll talk about active shooter in some of the areas where lighting can help in an active shooter scenario. Common challenges, flooding, budgets, lighting. Again, these are issues. How do you budget it? Most of the LED lights in facilities have already been changed, so they've already reaped the ROI. So you can't walk in and say, I'm going to replace with a T4 bulb or something and say, you're going to save more. They've already done that. That's been done for the last 10 years. You can't go to a mayor and say, you're going to see new ROI with that. That's long done. So now how are you going to show? Because in the end, like an outcome, if you can't show a return on an investment, your smart city project probably will not get off the ground. And if you can't show it within a 12-month or 18-month, it still probably won't get off the ground. We're seeing some ideas with a 5-year ROI, and mayors are starting to say, nah, it's just taking too long. I need a 12-month ROI, and I need to be able to prove it. And that's where lighting, like metered lighting, becomes very important. I'll give an example shortly. How do you pay for it? Again, 99% of the times, the way we're paying for it is through that ROI. So we're showing the ROI. You have to be able to demonstrate that ROI and give it in quantitative form, not qualitative, like, woo, you did it. No, it's got to be a quantitative action that the mayor can say, I'm getting this done. I can see how I paid for it. Now let's move on to the next project. Reduce costs, reduce your costs, maximize your return, and reduce your risk. So if you saw the cyber event yesterday, lighting will become an interesting cyber pathway also for nation actors. You can do funny things with lighting. We actually strobed one at a really high frequency, which can become dangerous for certain people. I'll skip that. So let me get into this. So outdoor lighting, just mentioned. One of the things you'll see is NB IoT, narrowband IoT, and then you get into 5G IoT. So for narrowband IoT on street lights, we can do things with like LoRaWAN, where I'm communicating with a LoRa gateway, like fiber's LoRa gateway, where I can communicate information like the on-off state of a light, where the light is in form and factor, what it's doing. I can also meter that light. When I get into more of a video stance, I can't use NB IoT. So now I have to use like 5G. With the advent of 5G coming out, we're starting to deploy 5G antennas all over the place. The Verizon 32 gigahertz antenna, the T-Mobile antenna. This allows us to go, as you saw with DSRC, which stands for Digital Short Range Communication. DSRC is one component. Most of your newer cars will have a DSRC, but the challenge is V2V and V2I, so vehicle to vehicle and vehicle to infrastructure. So vehicle to infrastructure, one of the challenges you'll see is if you're a fully class 4, class 5 DOT autonomous vehicle, it takes 4 seconds to turn right. That means the vehicle to vehicle has if you have no steering wheel, how does each vehicle know the intent of the other vehicle? You have to be able to communicate within 4 seconds that intent capability. That means there has to be something at the edge, that can communicate that fast. That's where you see in this star of stars, you've got gateways. The next step is mobile edge compute or mobile edge cloud. We are also working on that. So when I have a fully class 5 autonomous vehicle, now I can communicate. If there's no one there, like you said, I don't have to have lights. But when I've got a four-way stop, now I need to be able to communicate with that light pole about what is going on. The lighting infrastructure is already there. I'm from Virginia. Arlington, Virginia was smart enough. They ran all fiber optic cables to all of their lighting poles. So we're going to be hanging mobile edge compute devices off those lighting poles because now they have a full fiber backbone. Hopefully over time, cities will start to see that lighting infrastructure with that backbone makes complete sense because now I can push the edge. So I'm not always communicating to the cloud. I can push the edge and function at the edge like autonomous vehicles. Indoor lighting. We are a large partner with Cisco. So Cisco just released a 90-watt PoE switch. There's two major things that we're starting to utilize with this switch. One, with a new PoE switch, I can do a lot of lighting dynamic concepts, but two, I don't need an electrician anymore. I don't need a breaker. I don't need to have union labor. I can run just Ethernet cable. That is a massive change to where old lighting used to come in. Now I can run it all through an IT network. I can manage it off an IT network. I can control one single light. I can control thousands of lights, just like you do with a switch and an endpoint. So this new concept we're starting to put into different buildings and replacing old lighting control networks with these. So now it's a full IT network. What can you do with a full IT lighting on an IT network? Anything you can do with network routing like you do with your email. You can do absolutely anything you want with a single light, multiple lights, multiple color. For us, where it's important, hopefully none of you have seen that. I've seen that in a test run. That is an aircraft with smoke in it that's landed at an emergency. When it lands, what happens is the lights come on and you get red lights meaning the exit. Lighting now will become a safety thing. One of the things we work on with SWAT, British SAS retired people and Special Forces people, is active shooter. So right now, when you pull a fire alarm, if you saw the last Walmart shooting, the fire alarm, everyone pulls the fire alarm, everyone runs for the front door. That is the worst thing you can do in an active shooter. That's the best thing you can do in the fire alarm. That's the worst thing you do in a shooting because now everyone's centered into one area, which is perfect for someone who wants a hard target. For us, lighting can become a way of moving people into areas that we know the shooter is not. So using the integration with cameras, as was mentioned, and lighting, now I can direct students, I can direct employees, I can direct people in a mall, where to go, where not to go. I can lock down things now that I'm integrated with the building automation system. So now I can give lighting, I can give different lighting. Red being don't go here, don't come onto this floor. Green meaning go here. This is a safe room. It'll lock itself once you're in because we can manipulate pan, tilt, zoom cameras. Now with lighting, I can now maneuver people in a smarter way that are in a panic situation. That has never been before. Even lighting control systems, the best ones, do not have that capability like that because they're not that smart. Even the best ones can't do that type of route capability like we can with a new switch. It's just how the industry started. So for us, the next step with lighting, this was one of the, this is factoring. What we started to find, this was a data collected over a building in 1 hour. It threw off like a gig of data, everything from the elevator, from the lighting. But what we were trying to find is patterns within the lighting. So we started using, this is where machine learning and AI, so if I go back to this, it's easy to collect data off this thing. I can span port the switch, pull all the data I want off of it and do anything I want with it. Now I can start doing things like random forest, clustering. So now I can see this was done in a courthouse. It was kind of weird. You could always see when the judges were coming to one floor to start court because they would turn on their projectors, but we could also see what lights they were turning on. It started to help us design the building paths, what lights should be on, what rooms should be open, what things in the HVAC should be shut down, so we could better manage the building at night. But it all started with lighting. We could tell where people were when the lights were on because they were all automatic sensing lights. So we knew when they were on, we knew when they would go off, so we knew when people were in there. So now we could start doing different machine learning concepts like clustering, random forests, to better design the use of that building. Just some of the technology considerations we went through. This is the biggest point I tell when I meet with mayors, city planners and stuff. Like I said, we start with an outcome. And what we don't want to do is scare them that it's going to be some heavy infrastructure where we're going to have to redo everything. You're going to have to get all sorts of approvals. We want to take them through an iterative process to move their city from a 2.0 city to a 4.0 city. And by doing that, we give them the steps and the roadmap so they can see what they have to invest, what they're going to make on their ROI, and how they're going to get back. And one of the best things is lighting. We've found that we can really start to show them past the LEDs, the ROI to better manage their portfolio of buildings. I won't go with that. And that's it. Any questions?